Welcome to this demo of Thorium Nova. Let's dive in. We'll start by starting a flight. This is how you begin any game of Thorium Nova. So we'll click Start Flight. The first thing we have to do is choose how many people are on our crew. Right now, during this alpha, we can only choose one, but in the future, you'll be able to choose more crew, and we can choose whether or not to use flight director controls. Whether you use them or not is entirely up to you. Keeping it checked is fine. You don't have to use them if it's checked. The second step is to choose our ship, and we can give it a name, and right now there's only one ship that we can choose. And then we have to choose our mission. Since there are no missions yet, we can just choose which planet we're going to start at. We'll start at Earth. So we'll click Start, and now we will be here in our flight lobby. One of the first things we should do is resume our flight. That actually gets the flight going before anything happens. If you don't do that, then nothing's going to work right. So resume the flight. Then, if we want to connect another client, this right here is the screen where we can assign clients to different stations. Each station is going to have different controls, so that's where each person that's connected can have a different job. And if we want another client to connect, they can do that in a normal web browser like Google Chrome, and they just have to type in this URL here. So I'll copy that by clicking on it, and I can paste it in here. And now we're connected. This is the client Poor Baron. So we can go to the flight lobby, and if we go to the flight lobby here as well, they can choose their own station, or I can assign them to a station by clicking on their name here, and then clicking on the station I want to assign them to. And there. Now they are the view screen. And I can choose my own station as well. So I'm just going to expand this a little bit so that we can actually fit all of the controls and choose pilot. Oops, got to assign myself to pilot. There we go. So I'll log in with my name. And now I can see the pilot controls. This is my ship in the center. I can use this zoom to zoom all the way out and see that there's an object over there. And if I use the yaw, I can rotate the ship around so that I'm facing that object. And it looks like that's the Earth. Hey! Not actually the Earth. That's not an actual Earth model, but there it is. The cool thing about this view is I can use my scroll wheel to zoom in and out on this, and it zooms all the way out to 10,000 kilometers and all the way in to 10 meters. So I can see that this is actually the model of my ship. It's about 350 meters long. So that makes it possible to be able to see the size of things relative to your ship if you're in very close quarters, and you can zoom in and out real smoothly. It's so nice. And then I can use the thrusters to rotate like we saw, and I can also use the thrusters to strafe around, although it's not going to be very fast, so you probably the movement's probably imperceptible compared to the planet. Let's see. I'm not going to activate the engines yet because first we need a destination. So let me come to navigation. Here I can see my position in this system. So there's just two planets in this system. There's the Earth and Mars, and then the Sun. And if I wanted to, I could set a course for Mars by just clicking Add Waypoint. That sets the waypoint here. We can see the waypoint also appeared here on my view screen. I could set a waypoint elsewhere. For example, if I wanted to go to the Alpha Centauri system and set course for the first planet in Alpha Centauri, I could search for it up here and then click on it to select it and then add a waypoint there. And we can see that gives me another waypoint in a different direction. And if I want to remove waypoints, I can just click on them here, and that removes that waypoint so that it's not cluttering up my view. So we'll go back to the pilot screen, and I can use either the view screen or my pilot screen to set course. So I can just rotate it, and the goal is to line up that arrow so that it's right in front of me. So that means I'm going to have to use my yaw to rotate in that direction, and then I can tilt my sensor view like this and pitch up like this. And as soon as it's lined up, it's going to turn blue on my pilot screen. And then I can click Lock on Course, and that'll lock me on course to go to Mars. Now, one thing you'll notice is the thrusters are a little bit jittery here. I'm going to have to fix the control system for that in a future version. But for now, since we are on course, I can click Activate Autopilot, and that's going to activate my engines. And we can see that we are now flying at warp speed. A little bit sporadically, but hey, we're traveling. And if we come here to navigation, I can click follow ship. That'll take me back to my ship, and we can see us flying towards Mars. And you can see that line. I think that line is actually being drawn here on the view screen as well, which is another bug that needs to be sorted out. But you can see that we are traveling straight towards our destination, as sporadic as our speed is. Just to speed things up a bit, I'm going to deactivate the autopilot and then activate... Oh, it looks like we're at warp speed. Oh, and we just passed Mars. We just passed right by it. So, yeah, be careful with that, huh? And I can use this distance to be able to see how far we are. And I'm just going to hit that, activate autopilot. And that should activate our engines a little bit slower to get us there. And we can see it coming up into our view. And then we slow down and go to our impulse speed so that we can sit right here in orbit of Mars. And if we come back to the pilot screen, we can see that we're coming right up next to this waypoint that we set. I think the goal is to get you within, looks like 5 kilometers of the waypoint, although it is still a little bit wiggly with the thrusters, so I'll deactivate the course. So here we are at Mars. Looks like I'll want to make it so that you don't stop quite so close. So I should take notes of all the things that need to be fixed. Anyway, moving on, let's check out the cargo control. This right here is where we control the movement of inventory through the ship. So I can drag this slider up and down to see the different decks. I can click on a room. So this is the damage control room, and I can see all of the cargo in that room. And over here are the 4 cargo containers that I can use to transfer cargo throughout the ship. So we can see that there is a container that's already here in the torpedo launcher. And if I wanted to move some items out of the torpedo launcher, like say I need to move a couple of torpedo casings to a different torpedo launcher, I just click on them to move them into the cargo container. And you can see that the cargo containers have a limited amount of space. They only have 4 units of space. And we can see that each torpedo casing is 0.886 units. So I can only hold 4 of them. It looks like my room can only hold so much as well. So yeah, we'll have to keep that in mind as we're working on this. But if I wanted to move this cargo to a different room, like over here, I could click on this other room, and I could say, send this container to that room, and we can see this container begin moving in that direction. And that is how you transfer cargo. Once that cargo container makes it over to that room, we'll be able to move it out. And that's basically how cargo works. In the future, right now the cargo just gets moved around. It doesn't actually do anything, but it will be consumed in the future. So you'll be able to use cargo for torpedoes, for coolant and fuel, for damage control repairs or medical teams that might need cargo. All of that's going to be handled through this, and the person in charge of cargo is going to have a huge job making sure that everybody has the supplies that they need. The only other card that is completed right now is the officer's log, which makes it so I can create a new log entry, type in what's going on. I just transferred cargo, and we went to Mars. Hit the save button, and then that gets saved to the officer's log. Let's see, the final thing is flight director screen. So I'm going to close this. And on the flight director screen, we have a number of cores which we can switch between to do different things. So I can have a login core, which tells me the names of all of the people that are logged in. And I can go to the star map. I've got this nice little tab bar, and I can move these tabs all over the place. So if I wanted to, I could dock this over here on the side like this and create its own section. Or I could even make a tab bar over here on the side that just pops out with whatever I have over here. So that's really nice, very convenient. This is the star map core, so it makes it possible to, well, I've got to be careful because Mars is actually on the 3D plane like that. So that makes it just a little bit difficult to see what's going on with Mars. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. A little bit closer, maybe? Too close? Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to do these 3D maps, and they are just real tough to get right. So I'll keep working on that. But the good news is we are able to give... Oh, that's not doing what I thought it was going to do. Okay, so we can hide and show the planets. We can follow the selected entity, which in this case is that ship, but following it doesn't necessarily work correctly. Oh, and then we can spawn ships. So I can choose the Astra Cruiser, or Astra Frigate, and then if the ship isn't selected, I think, there, I've selected the planet, and now I should be able to right-click. I guess that's not working. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the star map. We're not going to worry about it a whole lot right now. This was just a preliminary getting the view on there so that the flight director could see what's going on. But this makes it possible for the flight director to go to any system and see what's going on in that system. It looks like there is a waypoint, a wayward waypoint hanging out over there. So that'll have to be addressed at some point. Yeah, it looks like it's still there. It's just the position of the waypoint, but it's being projected into every system. It's rendering even if we're not in the system where the waypoint is. Anyway, so there's a lot of work to be done here as well. Okay, so that is everything that you can do with running flights right now. Let's see, we also have the how-to guide, which gives just a little bit of instruction about how things work. It is a work in progress, so great opportunity to contribute if you're interested. And then we can also configure plugins. So Thorium Default is the default plugin that's going to be shipping with Thorium, and we can edit it by clicking this button or clicking this button. That'll take us in here to the different aspects of the plugin that we can edit. Like if we wanted to create a new ship, we could do that here and assign all of the different properties of the ship, like its mass. We can set up the ship map with all of the nodes and edges connecting them for each of the different decks. We can assign systems to the ship, or we can choose how many cargo containers a ship has and the volume of each of those cargo containers. Let's see. The universe makes it possible for us to create systems and then go into those systems and edit them. Looks like for some reason this isn't rendering properly. There we go. So we've got our different planets here, and we can adjust any of the properties of the planet, like its radius, or if we wanted to change its orbit, we could adjust its semi-major axis, which is the distance from the center of the system, and whether or not it actually shows the orbit path. Or we could even give it an inclination, which makes it go up more. So we could say it's at 45 degrees, and now it's making angles. So that's cool. And yeah, that's the star map editor. There's a lot of other stuff there, but I want to keep this brief. Inventory is where we can adjust all of the inventory items that are assigned to the ship. The inventory is automatically dispersed throughout the ship, but if we wanted to make it, for example, so that the torpedo casing, so these Type 1 torpedo casings, if we wanted them to be smaller, we could adjust the cubic meter volume of this object. So I determined the volume based on how big I figured the torpedo casing were, but we could make it anything we want it to be. And then over here determines how that inventory is actually used. So in this case, it's torpedo casing, which makes it so that you can launch torpedoes. Let's see. We can adjust themes. So the default theme is here, and these are made using CSS. So if you know CSS, you can create any kind of theme that you want using all of the elements that are available. And this right here is just a nice little way to see all of the different components that might be used as part of a card, and make sure that everything looks right. And you can upload assets like images, or in this case I'm using fonts, and we can even change this to see what it looks like in different alert levels. We can click this to preview what it looks like on the view screen as well. Then Let's see, I think the only other thing we didn't look at is ship systems. So here we can configure the different ship systems like the thrusters. Here's where we can choose the thrust and rotation speed for the thrusters that determine how fast the thrusters actually work. And these are based on the mass of the ship. That applies to the warp engines as well. No, actually, it doesn't apply to the warp engines. Warp engines are special. But impulse engines, they have a thrust as well that's determined by the mass of the ship. So creating new ship systems here, and then you assign those ship systems to the ships themselves that are going to use them. So that's all that there is for Thorium Nova. If you have any feature requests or issues or anything else, you can submit issues directly from within Thorium Nova. You just have to sign into your Thorium account up here. This will help you to create a Thorium account. And then you have to link your Thorium account to GitHub. And then you can come up here and choose Issue Tracker and enter in the title and body of whatever issue, whatever feature you want. Choose the type and submit it, and that'll be added to our feature board. So that's all for this demo of Thorium Nova. And if you have any questions, feel free to join us in Discord. Link is in the description. And happy flying.